I never imagined a quiet street in Baycliff, Texas, could hide something so shocking. It was early February 2025 when sheriff's deputies in Galveston County received a call that would change everything. The house belonged to Tammy King, 61 years old, a recent widow raising her 17-year-old granddaughter, Tara. They were well known in the neighborhood, friendly, warm, and the kind of family everyone assumed was safe inside their home. But something was wrong. Days had passed without a word from Tammy or Tara. No phone calls answered, no lights on, no movement. The house seemed silent in a way that made Terry Utton, a longtime family friend, uneasy. The deputies arrived, but the house was barricaded. Windows didn't offer a clear view inside, doors were locked tight. Terry was desperate. He knew that waiting any longer could be catastrophic. At that moment, fear settled in, a gut-wrenching feeling that no one wants to face. Terry called Tammy's son, Christopher, and confirmed that even he hadn't heard from his mother or his daughter in days. Panic set in. "I want to ask you, right here, right now, if you were Terry, hearing no answer for 2 full days, what would you do? Comment below. I'd really like to know what you think." With deputies at his side, Terry made the decision to break in. At first, it seemed almost impossible. A tumble dryer and a mattress had been pushed against the back door. Other items blocked the path, as if someone didn't want anyone to get inside. Terry didn't hesitate. Using the help of a nearby picnic table, he broke a window in the bathroom and climbed through, his heart pounding with every step. Every second felt like hours. Then he saw her. Tammy King, lying on her back on the bedroom floor, haphazardly covered by blankets and sheets. A single gunshot wound had ended her life. I can only imagine the shock, the disbelief, the fear. Terry couldn't even bring himself to look into Tara's room, unsure of what he might find. If you were in Terry's shoes, seeing someone you've known for decades like this, what would your first reaction be? And while you think about that, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. I'd love to see how far this story reaches. And then there was Tara King and her boyfriend, Uriah Urick, also known as Percy. At 17 and 18, respectively, they were just teenagers. But their absence now made them the center of an investigation that no one could have predicted. They didn't have cars, they didn't have jobs, and yet they seemed to vanish without a trace. Friends would later reveal that the couple spent almost all their time at Tammy's house, testing boundaries, ignoring curfews, and slowly creating tension with the family. It's hard to reconcile the image of a shy teenage girl with the possibility that she could be involved in something so dark. But as the days passed and investigators pieced together the teen's behavior, the story grew more chilling by the hour. Could a teen's rebellion really spiral into something this horrifying? Think about it for a moment, and share your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your take on this. When law enforcement finally entered the house, what they found was shocking. Guns and ammunition were scattered across the living room, safes had been emptied, food had gone rotten, and bottles filled with urine were left in plain sight. On the surface, it looked like a messy home. But investigators quickly realized it had been staged to look like a burglary. Whoever did this wanted to delay discovery, to make sure Tammy's death went unnoticed for as long as possible. The details of the mess were unnerving. Prescription pills in plain sight, garbage piled in corners, and a sense that someone had lived in chaos, purposefully. Even small signs, the open bag of dog food on the floor, despite there being no dog, added to the eerie feeling. If this were your home, what would shock you the most? The guns? The urine bottles? The careful staging to make it look like a random break-in? Comment below. I want to know what you think would have unsettled you the most. After Tammy's death, Tara and Uriah were gone. But they didn't just vanish, they wove a story to cover their tracks. They told friends and acquaintances that they were escaping an abusive household, claiming that Tammy had been physically and emotionally cruel. Social media posts painted a picture of fear and desperation, seeking help from anyone who might believe them. Friends tried to help. One young man, Rigo, picked them up from the house. Another friend, Christian, gave them a place to stay temporarily. But the couple's lies ran deep. They dyed their hair, changed their appearances, and abandoned their dog, Salem, leaving behind evidence of a life they intended to leave behind. But the chaos they left behind was hard to ignore. They fled south, across miles of Texas roads, leaving breadcrumbs of guns, money, and pills in their wake. Each step, each lie, seemed carefully calculated to throw off anyone who might be looking for them. I want to ask you right now, have you ever seen someone lie this convincingly? Type yes or no in the comments. I want to see your take on how believable people can be. As investigators dug deeper, a chilling truth began to emerge. Tara and Uriah's plans were not impulsive. Through Instagram messages and Cash App history, authorities uncovered weeks of plotting. They discussed killing Tammy, stealing cash, guns, and other valuables, and coordinating every detail of their escape. The messages were cold and calculated. One line, simple in text but heavy in intent, read, "We ride at dawn." This wasn't teenage rebellion, it was premeditated murder. Every move they made, every lie they told, had been meticulously planned. Reading through those messages, you can feel the chill, the realization that two teenagers were capable of orchestrating such darkness. Would you have ever suspected teenagers could plan something like this? Drop your city and thoughts below. I'm curious where everyone is watching from and what you think about this. 3 days after the murder, law enforcement finally caught up with Tara and Uriah at a Dollar General store in Laredo, Texas, over 5 hours south of Galveston County. By the time they were found, the teens had abandoned much of their evidence, including their dog and some of the firearms. But crucially, investigators recovered the AR-556 rifle, the very gun used to kill Tammy King. The arrest brought both relief and more questions. How could teenagers plan something so meticulously? How many people had unknowingly aided them along the way? If you were a detective on this case, what would be your first question upon seeing the teens and all the evidence? Type your answer in the comments. I'd love to hear how you would approach it. The courtroom was tense. Families, friends, and neighbors came to witness the unfolding of a tragic story. Terry Utton, the family friend who discovered Tammy, testified about the loving woman he had known for over 40 years, the grandmother whose only wish had been to guide Tara through life. Travis Hodgage, the man who gave the teens a ride south, testified about the drugs, the money, and the horrifying conversation in which Uriah revealed pieces of the crime. The prosecution painted a picture of two young lovers, desperate for independence, whose resentment and greed drove them to murder. And yet, throughout the trial, the audience could see how normal and familiar they appeared to friends and neighbors, a chilling reminder of how appearances can deceive. Do you think love or greed motivated them more? Comment your opinion. I want to know what you believe. As the trial wrapped up and the facts of the case became clear, one thing stood out above all: how quickly ordinary teenage rebellion can spiral into unimaginable tragedy. Tara had been a shy, quiet girl, well-loved by her family and friends. Her grandmother, Tammy, tried her best to guide her through adolescence. Yet small conflicts, arguments over curfews, chores, or school, began to simmer. Layer by layer, these tensions grew, until resentment and anger festered into something far darker than anyone could have predicted. It's a stark reminder that family dynamics are fragile. Even love and care cannot always prevent tragedy when decisions go unchecked and impulses dominate. And while we feel empathy for the victims, Tammy, a devoted grandmother, and even the teens caught in a destructive spiral, the story still pulls us in with the sheer shock of human behavior. If you were a friend of Tara's, would you have seen the signs before it was too late? Think about it, and drop your answer in the comments. Also, tell me where you're watching from. I want to see how far this story reaches. Stories like Tammy King's are heartbreaking, but they also serve as a warning about greed, impatience, and the consequences of choices made too early. Two young lives, desperate to be independent, allowed resentment and desire for instant reward to override morality and love. And one life, Tammy's, was stolen in the process. It leaves us asking, could this have been prevented? Should we judge the teens harshly, or reflect on the environment and relationships that shaped their decisions? What would you have done differently? Share your thoughts in the comments. We want to hear your perspective. Above all, we remember Tammy King for who she was, a loving grandmother whose life ended far too soon. May Tammy King rest in peace. If you believe in praying for her soul, type Amen in the comments. While you're at it, hit like, drop your DNA on the subscribe button to support the channel, and share this story with friends or family. Let's honor her memory together and keep this story alive for those who need to hear it.